Welcome to this session. This is a follow-on to the previous one. Please look at it if you haven't yet. The one in which I discussed my reasons for believing that using the symbols and the frequencies together, or in juxtaposition, if you will, is more effective than using either alone. Now I'd like to talk about my experience today. I was on the tennis court this morning. Now it's about 6 o'clock in the evening. At about 8:30. It felt as though I couldn't wake up. I was slow. I couldn't focus well. I particularly noticed that the movements of my arm as I was hitting the ball, they just weren't right often. I've played so much better. Something was wrong. I didn't know what it was. By the time I finished, an hour and a half later, I gave up. Nothing worked. I just couldn't even hit the ball right at all. I heard a little voice that said, "I'm low on tryptophan." That sounded like nonsense. Tryptophan's a basic amino acid, a building block. If I were low on tryptophan, I'd be a puddle on the pavement. No, that's something inside me was making an excuse and trying to get me off their back. What's going on? I did some meditating, and I decided I was low on a neurotransmitter. This one was insulin. And that hit me hard because 4 years ago I believed I had cured myself of diabetes. And in fact, I was busily parading myself around as an example of somebody who had. Why couldn't everybody do it? Well, maybe a little history would probably help here. As a 10-year-old, when the other children in the family got orange juice on the table, I demanded water. I knew if I had that orange juice an hour later, I would be so low I couldn't even focus my eyes. I probably couldn't even talk very well. Clearly, I had a sugar problem. Everybody knew it, the doctor knew it, and people after a while get used to it. So 4 years ago I decided this was not acceptable. I was going to be cured. And I used the usual physicist way of dealing with anything. I analyzed it. I decided, okay, here's the network of the way the signal should work, and here's what organ it was, and then I said, okay, what particular parasites were there, and what frequencies do I use? And I went ahead and strapped myself in and did the frequency work. And I remember at the time there was a period of several months when my sugar levels would go through the roof and then way down. I mean, it was really very unstable. So I've heard of this. Others who have gotten rid of their diabetes have reported the same situation. So I assumed that's what I was doing. Since then, in fact, I will eat an orange very happily and an apple. I have noticed that the situation is much improved. However, it's not perfect, and the more I thought about this morning, the more I became convinced that something was really wrong. I believe this morning my insulin level was extremely high. As a result, my sugar level had gone through the floor. There was no sugar there. There was nothing for my muscles to use. What's going on here? I came to the conclusion after the fact. What I did was I actually created a symbol for myself. This symbol was a large Jewish star, perfectly proportioned, with a circle. The circle was big enough, it centered itself in the same point as the Jewish star, and it passed through the points for the Jewish star where the two lines would intersect with each other. There, all the way around. And when I colored it, it knocked me out. It happens 3 times. I literally could not keep my eyes open, and I lost consciousness several times working on it. Then I asked what frequencies to use, strapped myself in, and did that. I did it without understanding why I was doing it. It's just, this is what the body said was worth doing. There was a lot of noise in my head. There was a lot of resistance to doing it, but I did it. Later on, things quieted down, and I began to get an explanation that was beginning to make sense. What I am hearing is, 4 years ago, I didn't cure myself of diabetes. 4 years ago, I ordered the parasites to shut down. They created a community. They said they will, if I leave them there, manage my insulin for me. And the body said, okay, but you give me 3 frequencies that will, in fact, shut you down. If you don't, that's your security deposit. And they did it. And today's experience convinced me that, in fact, they were not doing it, despite their own best efforts. I mean, they're not designed to, you know. And I appreciate that their best efforts were their best efforts. They're not in there to hurt me. On the other hand, they don't have a right to stay alive if they can't do the job. And that seems to be what's happening. So I use the frequencies. They shut down, or I guess they pretty much are shutting down now. I may go into the way up, way down sugar stuff myself again. Now, having said that to you, how are you reacting to all of this? Does it make sense? Let me make the question a little bit more direct. Is this person psychotic? Am I schizophrenic? Am I a total idiot? Well, at least I use sophisticated sounding words. I am willing to consider the possibility that any or all of those is possible. However, I have one advantage. I'm going to be out on those tennis courts this week. Let's see how I do then. I'll find out. I'm either right or I'm wrong. If I'm right, that's worth knowing. If I'm wrong, it's time to figure out where to go from there. But either way, I'm ahead of where I am now. It's an experiment. That's where the fun is. Bye now. Talk to you again.